Commander Zektar stood in his office high above the military planning center. His blue crystalline scales clicked together as he read the message on his screen for the third time. The words made no sense to him. Earth. Class 12 Deathworld. Recruit. Soldiers. The war against the Vorthan Dominion was going badly. Very badly. 3 outer colonies had fallen in the past month. The coalition fleet was running out of ships and good soldiers. But this order seemed like madness. Zek single quotes tar had seen pictures of Earth before. It was a nightmare world. The gravity was twice what most civilized beings could handle. The atmosphere was full of a dangerous gas called oxygen that could burn through metal. Violent storms covered the planet. The surface temperature changed so much that water turned solid in some places and became vapor in others. And the creatures that lived there, humans, they were soft and pink with no natural armor, no claws, no poison sacs, no energy weapons built into their bodies. How could such weak beings survive on such a terrible world? His door chimed. Lieutenant Kress entered and saluted with his 4 arms. "Sir, the transport ships are ready to leave for Earth," Kress said. His voice sounded worried. "How? Many volunteers do we expect?" Zektar asked. "The Earth government says they have over 2 million people who want to join our military, sir." Zektar's scales went pale. 2 million volunteers from a death world. Either these humans were braver than any species in the galaxy, or they were too stupid to understand what war really meant. On Earth, Jake Morrison stood in a long line outside the recruitment center in Denver. He was 32 years old, tall and strong from years of farming. The drought had killed his crops 3 years in a row. He had lost his farm last month. When the aliens came asking for soldiers, Jake saw his chance for a new life. Behind him, in line stood Lisa Rodriguez. She was a nurse from Detroit who worked in the emergency room. She had seen more blood and death than most soldiers. She spoke English, Spanish, French, and German. The aliens said they needed people who could talk to different species. Lisa thought this sounded like the most interesting job in the universe. Pete Williams was near the front of the line. He was a big man from Alaska who built houses and roads in places where the temperature dropped to 40 degrees below zero. His hands were covered in scars from working with metal and stone. The alien recruiters had been very interested when they heard about the places Pete had worked. Amy Turner bounced on her feet as she waited. She taught people how to climb mountains in Utah. She had climbed rocks that most people said were impossible to climb. She had survived falls that should have killed her. She had spent weeks alone in the wilderness, with nothing but what she could carry. The thought of seeing alien worlds made her more excited than scared. The recruitment center was busy and loud. Humans filled out forms and took medical tests. Alien doctors looked confused as they checked human bodies. Their equipment kept giving readings that seemed wrong. Dr. Hessick was one of the alien medical officers. He was checking Jake Morrison's test results for the 4th time. The human's bone density was 3 times higher than what his species considered normal. His muscle fibers were so thick that they should have made movement impossible. His heart was huge and pumped blood with incredible force. "Excuse me," Dr. Hessick said to Jake. "Have you ever broken any bones?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, I broke my arm when I was 12, fell out of a tree. Broke 3 ribs in a car accident when I was 20. Cracked my skull when I was 25, slipped on ice. Oh, and I broke my leg last year when my horse stepped on it." Dr. Hessick stared at him. Any one of those injuries would have killed most species he knew. "And you recovered from all of these?" "Sure," Jake said with a smile. "Took a few weeks each time." "Why?" Dr. Hessick made notes that he was sure no one would believe. These humans seemed to heal from injuries that would be permanent damage for his people. Lisa Rodriguez was having a similar conversation with another alien doctor. The doctor wanted to know about the diseases she had been exposed to while working. In the hospital, let me see, Lisa said. I have had measles, chickenpox, 3 different types of flu, food poisoning about 6 times, and I caught something called malaria when I was traveling in South America. The alien doctor's tentacles turned white with shock. Each of those diseases would have killed members of his species. And you survived all of these? Of course, Lisa said. Most humans get sick and then get better. That is how our bodies work. We build up resistance to diseases. The doctor made a note that human immune systems were apparently capable of fighting off biological weapons that would destroy entire alien cities. Pete Williams was lifting weights in the physical testing area. The alien testing equipment was designed for the strongest species in the coalition. Pete was using it like it was a warm-up exercise. This is the heaviest weight we have, the testing officer told him. Pete looked disappointed. Do you have anything heavier? This feels like about half of what I use at home. The testing officer looked at his notes. The weight Pete was lifting was twice what their best soldiers could handle. And he wanted something heavier. Amy Turner was taking balance and coordination tests. The alien course was designed to challenge beings with multiple limbs and enhanced nervous systems. Amy finished it in half the expected time, then asked. She could try it again, but faster. That course is meant to test the limits of coalition special forces, the testing officer explained. Oh, Amy said. It reminded me of the playground equipment my little sister uses. She is 7 years old. By the end of the day, the alien medical team was holding emergency meetings. The test results made no sense. These humans were built like living weapons, but they acted like the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They were friendly and helpful. They made jokes and laughed constantly. They treated the medical tests like fun games. Dr. Hessig called Commander Zektar with his report. Sir, I think there has been a mistake, Dr. Hessig said. These humans are not normal life forms. Their bodies are designed for combat in ways we have never seen. But they do not seem to understand how dangerous they are. Zektar listened to the medical reports with growing alarm. Bone density 3 times normal. Muscle fibers like organic metal cables. Hearts that could pump blood through their bodies, even when damaged. Immune systems that could fight off biological weapons. And they all thought this was normal. Are they a warrior species? Zektar asked. No, sir, Dr. Hessig replied. They seem to be farmers and teachers and builders. They just happen to be farmers and teachers and builders who are built like living battle machines. 3 weeks later, the transport ships arrived at Kepler Station. Commander Zektar waited to meet these impossible recruits from the Deathworld called Earth. Drill instructor Vorthek had broken thousands of recruits in his 30 years of military service. His species, the Krillians, were known across the galaxy as the toughest soldiers in the coalition. His scarred exoskeleton told the story of 100 battles. His compound eyes had seen recruits from every civilized world. These soft humans would be easy to break. The first morning at Kepler Station's training facility, Vorthik stood before 40 human recruits. They looked so weak and fragile compared to his usual trainees. No armor plating, no natural weapons, just pink skin and strange hair covering their heads. Today you will learn what real military training means, Vorthik announced in his grinding voice. You will run the basic endurance course. Most recruits complete it in 2 hours. The record is held by a Xantherian athlete who finished in 90 minutes. Jake Morrison raised his hand. Sir, how long is the course? 20 kilometers through varied terrain with full combat gear, Vorthik replied. Jake nodded and looked at his fellow humans. They were all smiling. This confused Vorthik. Most recruits looked nervous before their first real test. Begin, Vorvik ordered. What happened next broke every training record in Coalition Military History. Jake Morrison finished the course in 43 minutes. He was not even breathing hard when he crossed the finish line. Behind him, Lisa Rodriguez came in second place, followed by Pete Williams and Amy Turner. All 40 humans finished in under an hour. Vorvik stared at his timing equipment. He checked it 3 times to make sure it was working correctly. Instructor Vorvik, Jake said politely, is there a longer course we could try? That was a nice warm-up, but we were hoping for something more challenging. Vorvik's mandibles clicked together in shock. A warm-up. These humans had just destroyed his course record and called it a warm-up. The next test was combat equipment handling. Each recruit had to carry a full weapons load across an obstacle course. The equipment weighed 80 kilograms. Most species needed mechanical assistance to lift it. Pete Williams picked up the equipment pack like it was a bag of groceries. This is lighter than my normal work gear, he commented to Amy Turner. Amy nodded as she easily lifted her own pack. I carry heavier equipment when I go rock climbing for fun. By the end of the first week, the training staff was holding emergency meetings every night. The humans were not just passing every test. They were making the tests look easy. Dr. Kelron, the station's chief medical officer, was reviewing the latest reports. The humans are operating in environmental conditions that should kill them, he told Commander Zektar. Yesterday, we tested them in the Arctic warfare simulation. The temperature was -40 degrees. They said it reminded them of home. What about the desert training? Zektar asked. They performed even better there. One of them, Lisa Rodriguez, said the 50-degree heat was perfect weather for a picnic. She actually asked if we could make it hotter. But the real problems started when the humans began combat training. Lieutenant Gastier was running tactical simulations. He presented the human squad with a standard scenario. They were surrounded by enemy forces with no chance of escape. The correct response was to negotiate surrender or find a way to retreat safely. Jake Morrison studied the simulation for 30 seconds. Then he turned to his squad. Lisa, can you set up a medical station in that building? Pete, think you can create some defensive positions with the debris over there? Amy, what kind of sight lines do you have from that ridge? Lieutenant Gaster interrupted. Recruit Morrison, you have missed the point of this exercise. You are outnumbered 15-1 with no support. The tactical solution is surrender. Jake looked confused. Sir, I understand the numbers. But why would we surrender when we can win? Win? Gaster's voice went high with disbelief. How do you plan to win against 15-1 odds? Well, Jake said thoughtfully, Amy can probably take out their command structure from the ridge. Pete's defensive positions will funnel them into kill zones where Lisa and I can use concentrated fire. Once we break their first assault, they will be confused and scattered. Then we advance and finish them off. Gaster stared at him. In 30 years of military service, he had never heard anyone discuss advancing while outnumbered 15-2. 1. Recruit Morrison. That plan would result in heavy casualties on your side. How heavy? Jake asked. At least 60% losses, probably more. Jake shrugged. That means 40% of us survive to complete the mission. Those are acceptable. Numbers. Gaster felt his blood turn cold. These humans considered 60% casualties acceptable. The problems got worse during medical training. Dr. Yeshara was teaching battlefield medicine to the human students. She showed them how to treat various wounds and injuries that soldiers might receive in combat. This type of injury requires immediate evacuation to a medical facility. Dr. Yeshara explained, showing a picture of a damaged limb. The soldier would be unable to continue fighting. Lisa Rodriguez raised her hand. Doctor, That looks like the injury my brother got in a farming accident last year. He kept working for 3 more hours before we could get him to a hospital. Dr. Yeshara checked her notes. The injury she had shown would incapacitate any species she knew within minutes. Your brother continued working with this injury? She asked. Oh yes, Lisa said. He said it hurt, but he needed to finish bringing in the harvest. We just wrapped it up and gave him some pain medicine. Dr. Yeshara marked another note in her file. Human pain tolerance was apparently far beyond anything in Coalition experience. The weapons training created even more confusion. Master Sergeant Krulek was the best marksman instructor in the Coalition military. He was teaching the humans to use standard plasma rifles. Amy Turner picked up the rifle and examined it carefully. This is much lighter than the hunting rifles back home, she said. It weighs 12 kilograms, Krulek replied. That is standard for military weapons. Amy shouldered the rifle easily. My hunting rifle weighs 18 kilograms and has much more kick. This should be easy to control. On the firing range, Amy's first shot hit the center of a target 300 meters away. Her second shot hit the same spot. Her third shot went through the hole made by the first 2 shots. Recruit Turner, Krulek said, have you used energy weapons before? No, sir, Amy replied. But the principles are the same as any other rifle. You just aim and squeeze the trigger smoothly. Krulek looked at the target. In his species, it took months of training to achieve that kind of accuracy. This human had done it on her first try. By the end of the 2nd week, the alien training staff was completely lost. These humans were not following any known patterns of military development. They treated impossible challenges as minor inconveniences. They planned tactical operations that should have been suicide missions. They recovered from training injuries that should have ended their military careers. Worst of all, they were happy. They laughed and joked constantly. They helped each other through difficult exercises. They treated the brutal training like it was some kind of fun game. Commander Zektar received daily reports that made less sense each day. The humans were exceeding every expectation, breaking every record, and making his best instructors question everything they knew about military training. Sir, Vorthik reported, I do not think these are normal soldiers. I think we have recruited a squad of living weapons who do not understand how dangerous they are. Zektar looked out at the training grounds where the humans were practicing combat maneuvers. They moved like dancers, flowed like water, and struck like lightning. And they were still calling it basic training. He had a terrible feeling that the galaxy was about to learn something new about warfare. Something that would change everything. The alarm started screaming at 0300 hours. Commander Zektar woke from deep sleep as red lights flashed in his quarters. His communication device buzzed with urgent messages. Sir, this is Lieutenant Kress. We have Vorthan ships attacking the Azeven station. Multiple breaches in sectors 4, 7, and 9. They have boarding parties inside. Zektar jumped from his bed and grabbed his uniform. This was not supposed to happen. Kepler Station was deep in Coalition space, protected by 3 defense fleets. How had the Vorthans gotten through? In the command center, chaos filled every screen. Enemy soldiers were moving through the station corridors. Coalition defenders were falling back to prepared positions. The station's automated defenses were failing one by one. All trainee units are ordered to evacuate to the safe zones, Zektar commanded into his communicator. This includes all human recruits. Get them to safety immediately. In Sector 7, Jake Morrison heard the evacuation order through his comm unit. Around him, his 3 teammates were checking their weapons. They had been on guard duty when the attack started. What had begun as a training exercise was now a real fight. Did you hear that, Jake? Lisa Rodriguez asked as she treated a wounded Altarian civilian. "We are supposed to evacuate." Jake looked around the corridor. 20 alien civilians were hiding behind overturned tables and broken walls. Most of them were injured. Some were children. The nearest safe zone was 6 corridors, away through areas controlled by enemy soldiers. "Command, this is Human Squad Alpha," Jake spoke into his comm. "We have wounded civilians in Sector 7. We cannot evacuate and leave them." Commander Zektar's voice came back immediately. "Squad Alpha, you are ordered to fall back. You are outnumbered 15 to 1. Leave the civilians and save yourselves." Jake looked at Lisa, who was bandaging a small Altarian child's arm. He looked at Pete Williams, who was using furniture to build better defensive positions. He looked at Amy Turner, who had found a perfect sniper position overlooking the main corridor. "Command, this is Squad Alpha. We are not leaving these people. We are going to hold this position and then advance to secure the evacuation routes." The silence on the comm lasted 10 seconds. Then Zektar's voice came back, high with disbelief. "Negative, Squad Alpha. You face impossible odds. Fall back. Immediately. That is a direct order." Jake smiled as he checked his plasma rifle. "With respect, sir, we are from Earth. 15 to 1 odds means we only have to be 15 times better than they are. We can do that." The first Vorthan assault team came around the corner 3 minutes later. There were 12 of them armed, with heavy weapons and wearing combat armor. They expected to find terrified civilians and maybe a few coalition guards. Instead, they found Amy Turner. Her first shot took out their squad leader before they knew she was there. Her second shot disabled their heavy weapons specialist. Her third shot went through a wall and hit an enemy soldier who thought he was hidden. The Vorthans tried to take cover, but Pete Williams had turned the corridor into a maze of defensive positions. Every place they tried to hide became a trap. Lisa Rodriguez kept the civilians safe while providing covering fire with accuracy that made veteran soldiers look clumsy. Jake Morrison did something that broke every rule of civilized warfare. He advanced. While under heavy fire, he moved forward toward the enemy position. He used overturned tables as moving shields. He fired his weapon while running at full speed. He made tactical decisions faster than the enemy could react. Within 8 minutes, 12 Vorthan soldiers were either dead or surrendering. The humans had not taken a single casualty. "Squad Alpha, report your status," came Zektar's worried voice. "Sector 7 is secure, sir," Jake replied calmly. "We are advancing to Sector 6 to clear the evacuation route." Commander Zektar stared at his tactical display in the command center. According to his sensors, 4 humans had just defeated a full Vorthan assault squad in 8 minutes. This should have been impossible. In the medical bay, Lisa Rodriguez was doing things that made the alien medical staff question everything they knew about battlefield medicine. She had set up a treatment station in the middle of active combat. While plasma bolts flew overhead, she performed surgery on wounded aliens using techniques designed for human physiology. "Dr. Rodriguez," called Dr. Kelron, "you cannot operate during combat. It is too dangerous." Lisa looked up from the Krillian soldier she was treating. "Doctor, I worked in Detroit emergency rooms for 6 years. I have performed surgery while gang fights were happening in the parking lot. This is actually much quieter." She went back to work, her hands steady as rock while explosions shook the station around them. Pete Williams was having the time of his life. The station's corridors reminded him of construction sites back on Earth. He knew how to make buildings stronger, and he knew how to make them fall down. Now he was using both skills to turn every junction into a killing field. "Amy, can you cover the left corridor?" He called out as he rigged an improvised explosive from maintenance supplies. Already got it, Amy replied. She was lying on her stomach on top of a damaged air vent, her rifle pointed down a long hallway. I can see 3 more assault teams moving this way. Want me to slow them down? Just keep them busy for 2 minutes, Pete said as he finished. His work. When the explosives went off, they brought down a section of corridor that blocked the main enemy advance route. The Vorthans would have to find another way around, giving the civilians more time to escape. Amy Turner was discovering that fighting in a space station was very similar to hunting in the mountains back home. You had to know the terrain, predict where your targets would move, and take shots that other people said were impossible. Her rifle scope showed movement 4 corridors away. Enemy soldiers were trying to flank around Pete's roadblock. Amy calculated the shot in her head. The plasma bolt would have to go through 3 different rooms, past 2 support pillars, and between some hanging cables. She took the shot. 4 corridors away, a Vorthan commander fell with a hole through his chest. His soldiers looked around, in confusion. There was no way anyone could have made that shot. The angle was impossible. The distance was too far. The obstacles were too many. They were learning that humans had different ideas about what was possible. The battle for Kepler station continued for 6 hours. During that time, Human Squad Alpha did things that military historians would study for generations. They held positions that should have been overrun. They advanced through enemy fire that should have killed them. They rescued civilians from situations that should have been hopeless. Most importantly, they never stopped moving forward. While other coalition units fell back to defensive positions and waited for reinforcements, the humans kept attacking. They hunted enemy soldiers through maintenance tunnels. They set ambushes in storage rooms. They turned the station into a nightmare for the invading force. By dawn, the Vorthan assault was collapsing. What had begun as a surprise attack had become a disaster. The enemy soldiers found themselves trapped in a station where 4 impossible beings from a death world were hunting them like wild animals. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, they found Human Squad Alpha calmly organizing the surrender of surviving Vorthan forces. Jake Morrison was treating wounded enemies with the same care he had shown Allied civilians. Lisa had established a field hospital that was saving lives from both sides. Pete was already discussing repair plans with station engineers. Amy was cleaning her rifle and asking if anyone needed overwatch for cleanup operations. Commander Zeke Tar arrived to find his fragile Deathworlders not only alive, but looking like they had enjoyed themselves. Squad Alpha report, he said. His voice barely steady. Jake looked up from bandaging a Vorthan prisoner. Mission accomplished, sir. All sectors are secure, civilians are safe, and we have 37 prisoners who need medical attention. Also, Amy found their communication equipment, so we know where they were planning to attack next. Zektar stared at these impossible creatures, who treated mortal combat like an interesting teen exercise. The galaxy would never be the same. The battle for Kepler Station became famous across the galaxy within hours. Security cameras had recorded everything the humans did during the fight. Military commanders from every coalition world watched the footage with growing amazement and horror. General Threndock of the Altarian High Command played the recordings for his staff officers. On the screen, they watched Lisa Rodriguez performing emergency surgery while enemy fire exploded around her. Her hands never shook. Her concentration never broke. She saved the life of a Krillian soldier while the medical bay burned around them. How is this possible? Asked Colonel Veshtar. No medic can work under those conditions. According to her file, General Threndock replied, she worked in something called an emergency room on Earth. She says this was normal for her. The next recording showed Pete Williams building defensive positions while under direct attack. He moved heavy equipment that should have required machines to lift. He built walls and barriers faster than the enemy could destroy them. Most shocking of all, he seemed to enjoy the work. "Look at this," General Threndock said, pointing at the screen. "He is smiling while they shoot at him." The footage of Amy. Turner made even experienced snipers shake their heads in disbelief. Her first impossible shot was followed by 6 more that defied physics. She hit targets through walls, around corners, and at distances that made veteran marksmen question their equipment. "Sir," said Major Kelvin, "our best snipers cannot make shots like these. The angles are wrong. The calculations are impossible." But it was Jake Morrison's assault on the Vorthen command post that truly frightened every military leader who saw it. The recording showed him leading 3 people in a direct attack against 40 entrenched enemies. Logic said they should have died in the first 30 seconds. Instead, they Jake moved through enemy fire like it was rain. He made tactical decisions so fast that his opponents could not keep up. He turned a hopeless assault into a victory, so complete that the enemy survivors surrendered rather than continue fighting. "Play that section again." General Threndock ordered. His staff watched Jake Morrison charge directly at a heavy weapons position. The Vorthen gunner fired at point-blank range. Jake twisted sideways, let the plasma bolt pass inches from his body, and kept running. He reached the position and took it with his bare hands. "That should have killed him," whispered Colonel Vashtar. "According to human medical files," General Threndock said quietly, "that was not even close to killing him." The recordings were sent to every coalition military academy. Within days, alien strategists were trying to understand how 4 humans had defeated a force that should have destroyed them. The answer was always the same. It should have been impossible. Commander Zektar found himself promoted to general and placed in charge of a new project. The Coalition High Command wanted to understand human warfare and learn how to use it against the VORT Hans. His first task was interviewing the human squad about their tactics. "Lieutenant Morrison," Zektar said, "can you explain your assault on the enemy command post?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, sir, they had us outnumbered about 10 to 1. In that situation, you have to hit them hard and fast before they can organize their defense, so we attacked immediately. But the tactical manuals say you should wait for support when outnumbered." "Sir," Jake said politely, "human tactical manuals say that when you are outnumbered, you need to be more aggressive, not less. If you wait, they get stronger. If you attack right away, you might catch them off guard." Zektar made notes that he knew would confuse military scholars for generations. Human warfare was the opposite of everything civilized species had learned. About combat. The interview with Lisa Rodriguez was equally disturbing. "Dr. Rodriguez, how were you able to perform surgery during combat?" Lisa shrugged. "General, I have worked in hospitals during gang wars, natural disasters, and city riots. You learn to focus on your patient and ignore everything else." The shooting outside was actually quieter than a normal Saturday night in Detroit, but the risk to your own life. "Sir, if I do not save the wounded, they die. If I die trying to save them, at least I tried. That is how medical work is done on Earth." Zektar realized that humans viewed acceptable risk very differently than other species. Pete Williams explained his engineering work with the same casual attitude. "Mr. Williams, how did you build defensive positions so quickly under fire?" "General, I have built houses during blizzards, roads during floods, and bridges during earthquakes. You just keep working no matter what happens around you." This was actually easier because I did not have to worry about building codes or safety inspections. Amy Turner's interview made Zektar question everything he knew about marksmanship. "Sergeant Turner, how did you make those shots?" "Our best snipers say they were impossible." Amy looked confused. "Sir, they were long shots, but not that difficult." I hunt deer in the mountains back home. Those shots are much harder because deer move fast and hide behind trees. These enemy soldiers just stood still and shot back in straight lines. You consider that easier than hunting? Oh, yes, sir. Much easier. Deer are smart. Within weeks, the coalition military was trying to adapt human tactics to alien soldiers. The results were mixed and often tragic. Krillian assault troops tried to copy Jake Morrison's direct attack methods. They charged enemy positions with great courage, but lacked the speed and reflexes that made human tactics work. Casualties were heavy. Altarian medics attempted to work under fire like Lisa Rodriguez. They had the medical skills, but not the emotional control to ignore combat around them. Most broke down within minutes. Centurion engineers tried to build like Pete Williams, but could not lift the equipment or work at the speeds that human construction required. No species could match Amy Turner's shooting. Their best marksmen spent months trying to duplicate her impossible shots. None succeeded. The problem was clear. Human tactics required human capabilities. Other species could not copy what humans did because their bodies and minds worked differently. General Ziegtar wrote reports that changed coalition military thinking forever. Humans were not just good soldiers. They were a completely different type of warrior. They succeeded not by following established rules, but by breaking them in ways that confused and terrified their enemies. The Vorthan Dominion had intercepted recordings of the Kepler Station battle. Their military leaders held emergency meetings to discuss what they had seen. These humans fight like they are already dead, said Vorthan Admiral Grixtel. They take risks that no sane being would consider. Perhaps that is their weakness, suggested General Mortek. If they are reckless, we can set traps for them. Admiral Grixtel studied the recordings again. Look at their faces during combat. They are not reckless. They are calculating every move. They take risks because they believe they can succeed. And they do succeed. The Vorthan High Command reached a disturbing conclusion. Humans were not just dangerous because of their physical abilities. They were dangerous because they thought differently about warfare itself. Meanwhile, at Kepler Station, more human recruits were arriving every day. The Coalition had increased recruitment on Earth from thousands to millions. Every transport ship brought more soldiers who treated impossible challenges as normal training exercises. Jake Morrison was promoted to captain and put in charge of training alien officers in human tactics. His classes were unlike anything in military history. The key to human warfare, he told a room full of alien commanders, is that you never accept defeat until you are actually dead. Even when the situation looks hopeless, you keep fighting. Usually, you can find a way to win. But Captain Morrison asked a Krillian colonel, what if victory is mathematically impossible? Jake smiled. Sir, mathematics can tell you the odds. But mathematics cannot tell you what will happen when you refuse to quit. Sometimes impossible things become possible when you try hard enough. The galaxy was learning that humans brought more than strong bodies and quick reflexes to warfare. They brought a different way of thinking about what could be accomplished. And that was changing everything. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the war against the Vorthan Dominion had changed completely. Human soldiers were fighting on 17 different worlds. Everywhere they went, impossible victories followed. General Zektar stood in the Coalition Command Center watching battle reports from across the galaxy. Each report told the same story. Humans were winning fights that should have been losses. They were saving missions that should have failed. They were turning the tide of a war that had seemed hopeless. On his desk lay promotion orders that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Captain Jake Morrison was being promoted to colonel and given command of the Coalition's new Special Assault Division. The division was made up entirely of humans who specialized in impossible missions. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez had been promoted to Chief of Battlefield Medicine for the entire Coalition fleet. Her trauma teams were saving lives that military doctors had always written off as hopeless cases. She had also trained over 3,000 alien medics in what the Coalition now called Extreme Environment Medicine. Chief Engineer Pete Williams ran the Coalition's new Environmental Warfare Division. His teams could fight in conditions that had always been considered uninhabitable. They had won battles on ice worlds where the temperature was 60 degrees, below zero, and desert planets where the heat melted metal. Sergeant Major Amy Turner commanded the Coalition Sniper Academy. Every marksman in the galaxy wanted to study at her school. Her students included beings with multiple eyes, enhanced nervous systems, and natural weapons that humans could never match. But they still could not replicate the human combination of patience, adaptability, and willingness to take shots that logic said were impossible. The promotion ceremony was being held in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Coalition capital. Representatives from every member world had come to honor these 4 humans, who had changed galactic warfare forever. As the ceremony began, General Zektar thought about how much his understanding had changed. A year ago, he had seen humans as weak creatures from a nightmare world. Now he knew they were something far more dangerous. They were hope made into living weapons. Admiral Keshrin of the Coalition fleet spoke first. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species, we are here to honor 4 individuals who have redefined what is possible in military service. The audience included alien dignitaries who had traveled from across the galaxy to see these legendary humans. Many had never seen humans before. They stared at Jake, Lisa, Pete, and Amy with mixtures of awe and fear. Colonel Morrison, Admiral Keshrin continued, "Your Special Assault Division has completed 27 missions that were classified as impossible. You have rescued civilians from occupied worlds, captured enemy strongholds with minimal casualties, and proven that victory is possible even when the odds seem hopeless." Jake stepped forward to receive his medal. He still moved like the farmer he had been a year ago, but now every military leader in the galaxy studied his tactics. "Thank you, sir," Jake said simply. "My teams and I just do what needs to be done." That is what humans do. The alien audience murmured at his words. They were still learning that humans considered their incredible achievements to be normal behavior. "Dr. Rodriguez," the Admiral continued, "your medical innovations have saved over 50,000 lives. You have taught our medical corps that wounded soldiers can be saved even in the middle of active combat. Your field hospitals operate in conditions that we once thought made medicine impossible." Lisa smiled as she accepted her medal. "Sir, saving lives is what doctors do. The location does not matter. If someone is hurt, you help them. That is basic human medicine." Again, the audience whispered among themselves. To humans, performing surgery during explosions was apparently routine. Chief Engineer Williams, your Environmental Warfare Division has opened new theaters of combat that were previously beyond our capabilities. Your teams fight and win on worlds that other species cannot even visit. You have proven that no environment is too hostile for determined soldiers. Pete's massive hands handled the delicate medal ceremony with surprising gentleness. "Thank you, Admiral. Building things in difficult places is just construction work. It does not matter if you are building a house or a military position. You just keep working until the job is finished." The alien dignitaries were beginning to understand that humans treated impossible challenges as everyday problems. "Sergeant Major Turner, your marksmanship has become legendary throughout the galaxy. You have made shots that our best snipers still insist are impossible. Your students may never match your abilities, but they have learned that limitations exist only in the mind." Amy accepted her medal with the same calm confidence she brought to everything. "Sir, shooting accurately is just a matter of practice and patience. On Earth, hunters make difficult shots every day. We just applied hunting skills to military problems. After the ceremony, the four humans were surrounded by alien reporters asking questions that revealed how little the galaxy still understood about human thinking. Colonel Morrison asked his Anthurian journalist, "How do you maintain morale when facing impossible odds?" Jake looked puzzled by the question. "We do not face impossible odds. We face difficult challenges. There is a difference. Impossible means it cannot be done. Difficult means it requires more effort." "Dr. Rodriguez," called out a Krillian reporter, "are you not afraid when you operate during combat?" Lisa shrugged. "Fear does not help patience. When someone is injured, you focus on fixing them. Everything else is just background noise." Chief Williams asked an Altarian correspondent, "What is your secret for working in deadly environments?" Pete smiled. "There are no deadly environments, only environments that require different equipment and techniques. Cold planets just need warm clothes. Hot planets need cooling systems. It is all just engineering problems." Sergeant Major Turner called a nervous Vorthan reporter. "How do you make impossible shots?" Amy's answer silenced the entire room. "I do not make impossible shots. I make difficult shots that other people think are impossible. The difference is in what you believe you can do." Later that evening, Cheryl Zeektar met privately with the four humans in his office. He had one final question that had bothered him for months. "I must ask," Zeektar said, "do you understand how much you have changed warfare in this galaxy?" The four humans looked at each other and then back at him. "Sir," Jake said carefully, "we have not changed warfare. We just brought human warfare to the rest of the galaxy. This is how humans have always fought. But your tactics, your attitude toward casualties, your willingness to attempt impossible missions—" "General," Lisa interrupted gently, "on Earth, every day is an impossible mission. Our planet tries to kill us with weather, diseases, natural disasters, and 100 other things. We survive by helping each other and never giving up. War is just another challenge to overcome." Pete nodded. "Sir, humans have been fighting impossible odds since we first stood upright. We fought ice ages, plagues, floods, and each other. We built civilizations in deserts, jungles, mountains, and frozen wastelands. This war is difficult, but it is not the hardest thing humans have ever done." Amy added quietly, "We do not think we are special, General. We think we are normal. Every species probably has capabilities that seem impossible to others. We just happen to be good at not giving up." General Zeektar stared at these four beings who had revolutionized galactic military thinking and considered themselves ordinary. They had taken the Coalition's darkest hour and turned it into an age of unprecedented cooperation between species. They had proven that impossible was just another word for difficult. Most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that hope was not just an emotion. Hope was a tactical advantage that could win wars. As the humans left his office to return to their duties, Zeektar realized the most shocking truth of all. They were right. They were not special. They were just the first representatives of a species that treated miracles as daily routine. And that meant there were billions more, humans just like them back on Earth, waiting to show the galaxy what else was possible. War against the Vorthan Dominion would be won. But more importantly, the galaxy had learned that the universe was full of possibilities that no one had dared to imagine. All it took was being crazy enough to try.